Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, thank God it's Friday. Thank you so much for joining us on the TGIF edition of the show Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. My name is Emmanuel Ujadigele. Welcome to the show where we bring it to you as it is when it drops from where it drops. You know what we do for you here, try to help you make sense and give you better perspective into some of the issues, some socio-political, socio-economic, and even sports issues that are making the rounds so that you can understand what's happening and also be able to make informed decisions and give informed opinions. We have the interview segment where we also bring on our guests to speak to topical issues and issues affecting the polity, also affecting you as a person living in the country. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. On Twitter, it's at WSTV_NG. You can also watch us live and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. Once again, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Well, thanks for joining us again on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. I am Temitope Ajijalal. Good morning.
Well, good morning. It's the Friday the 3rd, February 2023. Very quickly, 7 days to the expiration of the cash swap policy, 2 days to the expiration of INEC PVC collection, and I know Femi will not like this, but 11 days to Valentine's Day and 20 days to the other, you know what it is. Yeah. So how's it been? Did you see any queues at the ATMs this morning or petrol queues?
Of course, there's always queue at the ATMs, but somehow, funny enough, I didn't see queues at filling stations today.
Oh.
But I hope that people are coping well with all the hardship in the country, and I hope that it eases soon.
Well, perhaps because people have begun trekking. One of us here at the office this morning trekked all the way from Bikunle, about 2 hours of walking before getting here this morning because there was simply no vehicles, no bikes, nobody was taking transfers, you know, and it's really, really, really bad. But then we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the papers this morning to stay with us. All right, welcome back. Let's go straight to the dailies, national dailies. We begin with the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch newspaper has as its banner headline, New Naira Crisis, Aso Rock Forces Inciting Nigerians Against APC. This coming from Nasiru El-Rufai, governor of Kaduna State, and the number of riders there. Cabal misinforming Buhari, Atiku benefiting from Naira confusion, Kaduna governor. Come out to vote, even if they devalue Naira drastically. Tinubu tells supporters CBN policy inflicting pain on the masses businesses. NLC, TUC, Niger governor. Again, El-Rufai making that bold claim.
Yes, he yesterday said some things as well in his video. And today again, he's still reiterating that Aso Rock has a lot to do with inciting Nigerians against APC. But I wonder why, I wonder how. And then this this second writer saying that, okay, I think it's the first one, Cabal misinforming Buhari, Atiku benefiting from Naira confusion. I still wonder how Atiku is directly benefiting from the Naira confusion. He's not even a member of the APC. I mean, he has not been in power for a very long time. So I wonder how he is, because they're both on the same race for the presidency. And if it's affecting Atiku, or if Atiku is benefiting, then I think every other one of them should be benefiting as well. But then if they keep making this claim, it goes to show that they also have something, you know, up their sleeve to do with, you know, the Naira. Okay, I mean, why should you have a problem with it? We're already, I mean, the campaign is already rounding off in a bit. So what do you need, you know, all of this for and all of that?
Well, it's interesting to see that Aso Rock forces are pitting Nigerians against APC. And some of the things that have been said by El-Rufai and other of his supporters is that the people in Aso Rock are not even members of the APC. You know, they're not card-carrying members of the APC, but they are in power, they're in the Aso Rock, and so they're trying to turn the backs of Nigerians to the APC. But then Tinubu telling his supporters to come vote even if they, the use of days is quite it's quite funny and almost very much oxymoronic if you ask me, because you are the day, the day is you.
Exactly.
That's just how it is. And so for some reason, and then NLC, TUC, I read some of their statements yesterday saying that the CBN policy is affecting the poor people generally and businesses. Of course, I had my own fair share of that issue yesterday. I needed to withdraw, but then because I had a relationship with the POS guy, I had done the transfer before getting to his shop, and then I got there and there was no cash, and it was someone had to come to my rescue. You know, so it's really affecting people, and we expect that this is really handled in no time. And below that story, there are pictures there of 3 persons killed as Abuja building collapses after extra floor. 3 killed as Abuja building collapses after extra floor. So another floor was added to the building, and that led to the collapse. Yes.
But it also adds to the fact that substandard materials were used, because this collapse shouldn't happen now. I mean, a few years down the line, it could happen. But if it's happening immediately, then substandard materials were used in the first place.
And then more worrisome is that that kind of building was even approved in fact. But I am willing to bet that it is a deviation from the approved plans.
Yes,
you know, most of these collapses happen because people deviate from approved plans.
Yes.
They want to cut corners, add more to the building so they can make more money. But then it is at the risk of things like this, you know, killing people and then losing lives. 3 lives are very much important.
And
you know,
we can only
really
say
sad.
that this is the proclaimed number. What if it's more, or what if there are still people, you know,
trapped in the building, under the building? Yes. Well, that's that on that story. You can read more about it on the Punch newspaper this morning. Now on page 15 of the newspaper, there is an interesting story. Bandits display new Naira notes. Experts indict bankers. Bandits display new Naira notes. Remember that bandits were asking for ransom to be paid in new Naira notes, and now they are displaying bundles of the new notes, and you and I don't have access to it.
We don't, and that's even worrisome, really. I mean, we don't have the new notes. Bandits are spraying the new notes, and yeah, so it also sort of confirms what we've been saying about banks also being involved in, you know, the scarcity of the notes in a way. Because if well, experts are already indicting bankers, so it's obvious now that not only the CBN has a fault in this, but you know, the disbursement of this money also has to do with, you know, the bankers as well. And so it's really worrisome. I think the CBN should do something really quick.
Oh, well, the CBN must do something very quickly, and we as Nigerians should be better people. You know, we need to be better people, really, and do the right things. On page 8, United Kingdom turns down Desiani extradition request, says AIG. And that's Desiani, who recently asked that all our forfeited property be returned to her. And now the information coming out is that the United Kingdom blocked moves to bring her back to Nigeria to face trial for alleged crimes.
Yeah, we can only wonder why the UK has done that. I mean, if somebody is alleged to have done, you know, or stolen public funds, you should return her to her country. Let her
well, there's a lot of diplomatic bottlenecks and brouhahas about, and I'm sure there are good reasons. If you want to find out what happened or what went down that led to the rejection of that request, you can check page 8 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Smuggling, government shuts 270 filling stations. That's on page 19. Very good one there.
Yeah, it's very good.
Me.
But then if you ask me, I'd still say 270. We still have more. So I hope that this is just first step.
Let's
celebrate the government.
Yes, they've tried. Let's commend them.
Yes.
270 filling stations. You can just imagine how much those 270 have hurt the process, how much they've hurt ordinary Nigerians. You know, but it's good that they've met their Waterloo.
Yeah.
Above the nameplate, NNPCL, they will sign 342 billion naira Kaduna refinery rehabilitation deal. Find that story also on page 19. Missing crude probe, IG refers reps to Malami on page 20. Our crude oil is missing.
It's very funny.
And the Inspector General of Police has asked the House of Representatives to speak to Minister of Justice and Attorney General Abubakar Malami to give them proper guidance and proper information on that probe.
Yeah.
I would love to read the report of Malami.
I know,
yes. You can find out on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. PDP knocks Wike, accuses governor of anti-party activities. Page 13. I'm surprised that he's been accused now, but has not been suspended or expelled.
Well, this might just be the first step in, the suspension. He has to be accused first. Then proper investigations will be made as to how.
Oh, yes, you're speaking like, like a police officer now.
So yes, and I hope that proper sanctions too will be meted out if all the people were suspended. I think let's see what happens. We should have something happening or a good step taken by the PDP.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, I think they're waiting for him to announce his candidates and then see if he will defeat from the party. Well, the last story on the Punch newspaper: Vice President Clark says Okowa betrayed South. Governor protests. That's been a running battle between Chief Edwin Clark and Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State. Seeing as the Southerners have been clamoring for a president of a Southern extraction, Nigerian president of Southern extraction. And according to them, the agreement was that no Southerner would take the VP slot. And then so they are accusing Okowa of having betrayed the South by taking up that VP slot.
Well, we have the Southerner running, although not,
on the platform of the PDP. Now, what they agreed, according to Chief Clark, is that power has to shift to the South now. So all the parties, and that's part of Wike's grouse with the party, all the parties seemed to have told that line, bar NNPP and the PDP. Just the two of them did not toe that line. So that's where this issue is arising from. Or you can get more on that story on page 8 of the Punch newspaper.
All right, moving on quickly to the Daily Trust. And the headline says, Naira crisis, APC governors reject February 10 deadline. The writers say, tell Emefiele people are paying to get their money. Demand 1-year extension to meet Buhari today. Protests in Lagos. Military operations suffer as troops in bushes cash-strapped. Only masses are suffering, politicians having their way, Kwankwaso. Well, it's true. Oh, well, okay. The governors also are rejecting February 10 deadline. And then Emefiele is saying that they're telling Emefiele, yes,
people are paying to get their money, which is very terrible.
Yes, it's sort of dicey, and it's ironic as well. You have to pay to get your own money from the banks. And it's even happening over the counters.
Over the counter, yes.
Yes. It's funny. We've been talking about the POS operators and other agents, yes, but the bank itself is, also involved in this. And it's not only even about the counter. We don't even know other backdoor operations that the bank is doing to get money out. A lot of things are happening around this, and I think it's not been properly monitored.
Yes.
Yeah, the CBN should employ the security agencies, to probably go beyond their normal, process this time.
Put undercover agents in the banks to see what's happening.
To see what's happening.
Well, I am also worried that the troops are in the bush are cashed up, and it's part of the fear that we also had, and that we still have. People who, for instance, went on the sea, people who are under deep cover, people who are, at the front line of the fight against insurgency in the northeast, may have gone in with, some of the old notes, and they may have expended those old notes. They may still have them. By the time they come out, probably some of them would not meet the deadline if it's still in place. And so their operations will be hampered. They can't get food. They can sometimes have to buy other things to keep up, daily upkeep. So it's going to affect every sector and everyone.
All of this back and forth have been confirming that the CBN policy might be good, but then it wasn't properly, the strategy
Probably
towards it
thought
was
out,
not,
yes.
yes, it's not probably.
And I want to agree with with Rabbi Kwakwanso there that only the masses are suffering. Politicians and not just politicians, celebrities that are having, not even celebrities. You
People
just
in
need
the
to know
upper
people,
class.
yes, are having their way, and that's on page 4. You can get all of that story there.
All right, just below that, NNPC engages Korean Koi on 341 billion naira Kaduna refinery repair. More of that story as well is on page, I think, 18 or so. All right, Nigeria recorded over 10,000 cases of cancer in a month. Wow.
That's worrisome.
Worrisome,
and
yes.
we've always said, like we said at the beginning of the show this year, when the Harmattan season came into full force, we said that, or even last year, we said that people should take responsibilities for themselves, you know, right, get warm and all that. Now we're also saying that you need to take care of your health, you know, read up on some of these things. You have to
Causes, the symptoms.
eat healthy, stay healthy, live healthy to avoid some of this disease, because it's expensive to get treated, first of all. And then we live in a country where 2,000 of our doctors have left the country as of 2022. And we don't know how many more are leaving this year. So there's shortage of manpower to treat you if anything happens to you. So you should also take care of your health to avoid being
Just to remind us that there are a number of warnings around the health, around health these days. I mean, we have COVID-19. In Nigeria, we have diphtheria outbreak. I think
there's
it's
still the ongoing Lassa fever
and this is another one on cancer. So people need to, you know, look out for themselves, you know, as the first in line, you know, in that. Just take care of yourselves, do what is needed. And as you said, they should read more on how to protect themselves in this period. All right, that's on page 7. JNI demands probe of NAF over Nasarawa headers killing. More of that is also on page 5.
It is very much disappointing that as of now, nothing has been said, you know, about who I can't even say who, right? Because the airstrike was probably sanctioned, you know, was properly sanctioned. But the problem is with the misdirection, how it went from attacking bandits and terrorists to killing civilians. So how did that mistake happen? How did it occur? Those are the questions that will be asked, and it's sad that no official statement yet. Nothing has been said to address despite clamoring.
Yes.
You know.
Right. We can also see the disturbing picture of that building collapse in Abuja. 2 killed, 40 trapped as building collapses in Abuja. You remember we raised that a
lot of persons are still
that
trapped,
people will still be trapped, and we don't know how fast, you know, the extraction would be to rescue them. So it said developer violated building plan, but that's FHA saying that. So we can see that truly what was approved is not what was followed.
Yes.
In the development. All right, just below the nameplate, we are not afraid of anybody. El Rufai dares Villa Cabals. This El Rufai's claim, I think he's really sure. Like, he feels sure of what he's saying, and he's daring them this time around. I think he wants to smoke them, and he wants them to talk.
Yes, it's reverse psychology.
Yes,
he wants to try and push them to make their own comments. That video of El Rufai during the cabal is supposed to be part of a larger video, a larger interview with the BBC outside that will be released in no time. So we'll wait to hear if he will drop names this time or point fingers directly. But for now, it's just been the cabal, some persons, some powers. We hope that names and faces are put to those figures anytime soon.
All right, more of that story is on page 10. Then Kanu, Gawuna, Bashir, Yusuf, Abacha lock horns at Daily Trust debate tomorrow. Let's see how that will go, and all the issues that will be raised and how they'll point them out tomorrow. That's on page 24. All right, just above that, let's remember that still in captivity are 11 schoolgirls of FGC Baninyari who have now spent 598 days in captivity. Then one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, has spent 570 days already. We pray, and we hope that the students would be released soon.
Well, very disturbing statistics or figures there. We just cannot imagine the plight of those students.
Right.
We hope that they are reunited with their families anytime soon. Well, that's the much we can take on the papers this morning. You can also get a hold of the Nation newspaper to see what El-Rufai and Fashola are saying about Buhari's backing for Tinubu. Despite El-Rufai's comments, he's also still saying that Buhari's backing for Tinubu is solid. And you can check out the Guardian newspaper for seeing how CSOs, civil society organizations, are reacting to, you know, some of the cash crunch. They are picketing bank offices and looking at the antics or some of the involvement of bank managers, you know, in that cash crunch. Well, we'll take a break, and when we come back from our break, we'll go straight to the interview segment where we'll be looking at some of the things that were said, some of the things that were done yesterday when the All Progressives Congress, APC, held its rally presidential campaign here in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. Do stay with us.
Or into the camera.
All right, thank you so much for joining us again on the program Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. If you're just joining us, you're watching Morning Spring, where we bring it to you as it is when it drops from where it drops. We have conversations around the polity, socio-political, socio-economic conversations to help you make sense of some of the things happening. And we are making birth here in Osun State, Osogbo, the Osun State capital, where yesterday presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, campaigned here in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, at Nelson Mandela Freedom Park. He addressed party faithful and said quite a number of things. And to speak to those things, we have a member of the Presidential Campaign Council of the APC here in the studio with us. Mr. Med Mustafa joins us live on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's start with the choice of venue. You know, the incumbent government, led by Senator Ademola Adeleke of the PDP, had approved the stadium for your party to use. But yesterday, or some hours before that, there was information that you'll be using the Nelson Mandela Freedom Park. Why the change?
Well, I don't think it was some hours. I think because I heard about the change of the venue days before, and we wanted to make a statement, you know, and it had to be, we knew that we had the numbers to do that. And so we decided to, what's the word I'm looking for now? Do a public show of strength, you know. It was by all accounts, it was a very successful, and the venue played a key role in that. If we had cramped ourselves into the stadium, it might have been a stampede, you know, given the number of people that thronged that place yesterday. Because the venue was without borders, it allowed people to spread far and wide into town. And so, you know, it made absolute sense for us to have made that switch for a number of reasons. And I suppose that yesterday's turnout absolutely justified the reason for the change of venue.
Okay, so also the program was slated for 10. Before we get into other issues now, 10, 11. And it didn't start until past 5. And a number of persons were wondering, was Asiwaju already in town? Some of us know why, but for the sake of the viewers, mind telling us where he was all of those hours?
Well, he flew into Osogbo via a chopper. His plane had landed in Ibadan. A few hiccups here and there with his flight. But he got into Osogbo and had to have a meeting with the traditional rulers. And so that meeting, as a matter of fact, he had gotten into town. His movement from where, after the meeting was done with the traditional rulers, moving from Ebonlua, that's where the venue of the meeting with traditional leaders held, to the campaign office in Ogolua, took about an hour and a half, the drive, because of the amount of people, well-wishers, supporters, and Nigerians who were eager to catch a glimpse of him. After then, he got down from his bus and got into that open roof bus that you saw. And that took another hour, an hour and a quarter for him to make the journey from the campaign office all the way to Freedom Park. And it was surprising when we got there that despite the fact that the program had been slated for 10, like you said. People waited until past 4, and the crowd was still as massive as it could have been. You know, that, I think it was an exact test of how much love and joy and aspiration and acceptance that this man has, particularly here in the city of Osogbo,
All right.
in Osun State as a whole.
About 2 things now. Do you mind telling us what this meeting with the traditional rulers was about?
Okay, so he met with traditional rulers and he expressed his belief that the APC was doing things the right way, and also sought their royal blessing, because as they say in Yoruba, you don't come into people's house without greeting the elders. So it was in keeping with tradition that he had to meet with the traditional rulers, because we didn't expect them to have made their way to the venue of the rally. So it was just paying homage to whom homage was due, and that was, you know, purely and typically the Yoruba way of showing respect to the elders.
All right, as much as that was necessary, do you think that the number of hours spent with them was, you know, supposed to be, shouldn't it have been reversed?
No,
like he didn't spend a lot of time at the campaign.
He didn't spend a lot of time with them. He spent a lot of time in transit.
Okay.
You know, from my calculation, he spent about 2.5 hours moving from Ebonlua to the venue of the rally. You know, he didn't, I think he spent less than an hour with the traditional rulers, you know, in meeting with them and, you know, explaining his vision and his plan for Nigeria to them, because they're also Nigerians and they have a voice where it matters, you know, so they had to be carried along. So he took time to explain to them, and particularly the current situation that Nigeria is facing right now with the scarcity of fuel and the Naira redesign and the difficulty that it is creating for him and the majority of Nigerians. So he just took his time to explain to them and, you know, sought their royal blessing, like I said. But he didn't spend a lot. It wasn't as if he took, gave them preeminence over the people who were waiting for him at the Nelson Mandela Park. No, it was just a situation where there was such a crowd and so many people who wanted to see him, and, you know, it would have been wrong. You know, there was even no way, no matter how much he wanted to, there's no way he would have hurried that journey through, you know.
All right, so let's get down to business now. In Abeokuta, when your principal campaigned, he said some things, particularly talking about the cash crunch and the petrol scarcity, and he used the term "they," saying that they were doing that. And yesterday, he also said that he brought them to power and he will replace them. So I'd like to ask you: is there a strained relationship between your principal, the party, and the president?
No, there isn't. He was very clear. Like, in his meeting with the traditional rulers, he said it to them, said Buhari is not the problem.
So who is the problem?
There are elements within the party and within the presidency, and this position has been re-emphasized by the governor of Kaduna State in his interview yesterday. He said categorically that there are elements within the presidency who are unhappy that they didn't get their way. You know, they had plans, you know, for who they wanted to be the APC's flag bearer. It didn't pan out, and so these people have formed what in politics or war we call the fifth column, you know, and are actively working against the interests of the party. And it's not unusual in politics, you know. Every party has them. The PDP has them, you know, and so it's very natural. Even Jesus had 12 disciples, and there was a Judas. So, you know, but the good thing about it is that Asiwaju has, in his usual manner, anticipated and foreseen this kind of action or reaction, as you might term it, and plans have been made and will definitely be put into gear to nullify whatever it is that these fifth columnists are doing.
I know you're trying not to go directly, but there are cracks within your party. Obviously, some members, like you've just said now, some members of your party are not happy probably about the emergence of Asiwaju Tinubu, and the constitution of that cabal, let me use the word now, belong to the northern part of the country, where there seems to be a block of votes that has always brought presidents to power. Are you worried about Asiwaju's performance
in the north? No, I'm not. Why? And this is backed up by facts and figures. 13 of the 14 northern governors in the APC agreed unanimously that power must shift to the south. It was a gentlemanly agreement that they had. And you know, this
Now,
people have,
a gentleman's agreement, was it documented?
no. That's why it's a gentleman's agreement. No formal papers were signed, but they met with the president, you know, and that meeting wasn't secret. It was, you know, in the news. And they said to the president that for equity, fairness, and justice, it's just right that power should be returned to the South. There was an agreement in 2015 for power rotation within the APC, and these men, being men of honor, stood by that agreement, you know, and they have shown beyond reasonable doubt that they are willing to go through with that agreement. I'm not by the slightest worried that the North will turn up big for the APC, you know, and for Bola Ahmed Tinubu especially, you know, because this is a man who has built bridges across the divide. It's not a journey that started 2 or 3 days ago, so it's been in the pipes for quite some time. So you know, I expect confidently that the North, the APC will have a very good showing in the North. And again, I must say that a lot of this is hugely dependent on the character and the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Talking about character and person now, you know, there's been so much controversies surrounding Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from his background to some of the alleged drug dealings and all of that. Does it speak to the fact that as a person, he's been too much negatively in the news? Does it worry you?
No, it doesn't. It's politics, you know, and nobody throws a stone at an unfruitful tree. He's getting this much attacks simply because he's the front runner. There are 18 or 19 presidential aspirants, you know, but Asiwaju is in the news all the time. And like I say, in politics, good or bad publicity, it's still publicity, you know. Everybody in this country knows that there's somebody called Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu who is running for the office of president, and that works well for the APC. It's amazing that his detractors will spend more time criticizing Asiwaju than selling their own candidates. You know, you spoke about his background. This man's life is well and truly documented. He didn't come into politics from nowhere. He was in politics.
But there were some issues, especially his documentary, where some pictures were misused. That of Donald Duke, for instance, does that speak to the fact that it wasn't really well documented? Like
it's possible. Human errors are not. We can't excuse.
To the point of using another person's picture.
Yeah. Of course, we can't excuse. We can't excuse that. You know, it has to be. You then ask the question: was the man involved in the making of the documentary? Was he? That's the question you have to ask. And at the end of the day, Asiwaju is not somebody who is unknown. He's been in politics, like I said, since 1992. Before then, he had a track record in the private sector, well and truly well documented. So it's amazing when people sit down and conjure stories. There was a particular age he was when he was governor of Lagos at the time. You know, nobody was challenging it then. Nobody thought he was older than that age at that time. And he has come to that age. He was governor of Lagos in 1999. You know, if you do the maths and add it up, does it add up? Yes or no? It's a simple. If you ask me right now how old I am, you know, if I'm a public figure, I will tell you, oh, how did you find out my age? You said you find it on the internet, or you read something about me on the internet. And people go on the internet and say things about Asiwaju, and they don't believe it. They believe what somebody else is telling them. Oh, the man must be 95. Oh, he must be 103. These are, you know, allegations. I'm sorry, but you did mention his drug case. And I would like to address that once and for all and put that story to, you know, and nail that to the coffin. Do you think, honestly, that with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like I said, being the front runner, Atiku Abubakar or Peter Obi, if there was any truth to Asiwaju's drug case, they would. Why are they refusing to approach the court to have Asiwaju disqualified? It's because they themselves, given their position in the public, have investigated that matter. They know that there is no truth to it, and they are willing to help him quash those rumors. And that's why, ordinarily, if the reverse was the case, with the SPV, the APC has approached the court and wants Atiku disqualified because we believe that there is truth in that. Why is the PDP and other opposition parties not taking up that challenge? I challenge anybody right now to approach the court in Nigeria with evidence verifiable before a court of competent jurisdiction to have Asiwaju disqualified on the basis of his drug charge. I challenge anybody to do that. Either you do that or you keep quiet. It's as simple as that. Let's face the issues and discuss what this man's plans and his visions are for Nigeria. You know, this is not the time to begin. Mudslinging is part of politics, but you know, Nigeria needs a lot more than people who just want to call people names.
Okay, so let's come back to the issues from the campaign yesterday. Again, when we talk about candidacies and you know, candidates, Asiwaju has always touted himself as one of the leading and one of the best. But there are some issues surrounding the man's mental alertness. For instance, yesterday at the campaign ground, he was saying that a student to spend 8 years in school as opposed to
opposed to
4 years.
4
You know, some of these things, does it speak to the fact that at that age, as it is, it should probably, you know, be playing the role of an elder statesman?
I don't, elder statesman, I don't. Okay, let me speak to the question that you asked before I
Yeah, I'm
deviate.
talking about mental alertness
Yes.
now. And
This was a
being
man
able to
who
handle-
spoke for about 45 minutes, and he misrepresented H44 in one sentence, and he corrected himself immediately. He did say, and I'm sure that you heard him say, oh, 4 years will be 4 years. You know, it's funny how we want to major on the minor, you know.
No, it's not majoring on the minor. It's about the fact that he will be, if he wins, he will be entrusted with the collective goodwill of over 200 million people. Those kind of mistakes, don't you think, may be costly?
Especially as
Okay.
being seen, you know, in almost every of his appearances at campaigns.
At the end of the day,
Public speaking.
not everybody is gifted, you know, oratory, and it's not a. If speaking was the measure of leadership, if that's what it took to be a leader, I suppose the motivational speakers of this world will be the ones in charge of the world economy, but they are not. You know, at the end of the day, it's how you crystallize your ideas. That's what should matter to Nigerians. Without downplaying this, a lot of other candidates have made this kind of mistakes. You know, a governor in the South said that the elections will hold on October 25, and nobody is questioning his mental health, and that was the only time he spoke. What is to say that if he keeps going around and keeps speaking, he doesn't keep making these kinds of mistakes? You know, a vice presidential candidate of a particular political party did say that he wants to commensurate with his own principle, and we've not heard him speak too much. So what is to say that if he continues to speak, you know, he doesn't make this kind of mistakes as well? There are people who don't speak, who don't do well with crowd, and, you know, get nervous and things like that. I'm not saying that's the case, actually. I'm just, you know, saying that as I'm sitting down here before you, if I make a mistake in my figures right now, you're not going to be questioning my mental alertness, are you? You know, because I'm gifted, I can hold my own. Not everybody can, but that doesn't mean that I'm more intelligent than the person, or I'm more mentally alert than the person who can't face the camera and speak. I don't think that's a measure of it. I don't think that's what it takes. At the end of the day, you look at how well this person has positioned himself and how well he means for the nation. And is this backed by facts? Is it backed by irrefutable evidences? Has he been entrusted with power before? How well has he done when he got the opportunity? These are the things that we should be talking about. If you're criticizing his manifesto, you know, I'm, you know, drawing out errors where in the manifesto, then we can have that debate, you know. But somebody makes a mistake in his speech, I don't, you know, necessarily think that's a measure of one's intelligence or mental alertness.
Well, I think Nigerians should be concerned about his health, because it's not only the mental alertness now, it's about also the, you know, the physical state that is in. You know, looking at, you cannot compare Asiwaju with yourself now,
Yes.
the way you did earlier, because okay, we want to talk about you know, Asiwaju's his performance all through the campaigns. Probably there's you know, the stress of the campaigns and the whole thing is already weighing down on him. Do you think that he can really bear the burden of Nigeria for 4 years, the whole of the...
I like that you asked that question. If Asiwaju becomes president today, he's not going to be touring all the states campaigning. He's going to sit down in his office and make decisions that will affect the lives of 206 or 207 million Nigerians.
But occasionally he will need to step out.
That's the word, occasionally. Right now as we speak, Asiwaju was in Osogbo yesterday. After the stress of Osogbo yesterday, he left Osogbo yesterday and is in Ekiti as we speak. I was at that rally, and it took me a lot to be here this morning, bearing the physical stress that I underwent yesterday. I wasn't the one who was waving to people and dancing and singing and all that, but, you know, I'm in my 30s. It took me a lot to wake up this morning and appear here. It's the level of commitment that I have to this campaign that has made me literally drag myself here this morning. If I had my way, I would still be in bed at this time, given the stress that I underwent yesterday. But I was shocked to learn yesterday that Asiwaju had left Osogbo and driven by road, because he was saying yesterday that his chopper could not fly after 5. He drove by road all the way to Ekiti yesterday, and he will be in Ekiti today to also go through the same rigor. So it's not unusual that stress will be there. But when he's president, I don't expect that every day he'll be moving from Osogbo to Ekiti, from Ekiti to Anambra, from Anambra to Imo. From no, that's not the way it works. I don't think that would be. It should be a concern. And I must add that for those who are seemingly younger than Asiwaju, he's been the only presidential candidate who has kept to his campaign timetable without missing out on any of his campaigns. He's not had to shift from one venue to another. In fact, there was a day, I think 2 or 3 days ago, where he was in 2 states on the same day. You know, it tells you that at his age, if you can still go through that rigor, you know, then of course we have not. Like somebody once said, the presidency is not an Olympic race. It's more about your mental capacity than it's about your. Nobody's underplaying the need for you to be physically fit. But this man has demonstrated again beyond reasonable doubt. If you stick to the issues and ask yourself the real questions, how is it that this man has, over the last 1 week, literally gone through the length and breadth of this country, but we call him unfit? How many young people can even do that? We go to work Mondays to Fridays, and then on the weekends, we collapse into our comfortable chairs. But this man wants to do the same, and everybody starts shouting, "Oh, Asiwaju is unfit to run the country." I don't quite agree with that.
Okay, so let's some of the recurring messages in Asiwaju's campaign is even if they move the polling booth into the bushes, even if they do this, who are the they that Asiwaju is talking about? And then is he by implied means questioning the integrity of the elections?
No, he's not. He's saying that he didn't say if they move the polling units to the bushes. What he was saying was that people are worried about the fact that they don't have cash in their hands right now because of the new CBN policy. But he's saying that don't worry yourself. Your polling booth cannot be more than a mile away from you. And if you have to trek, please trek. People had left their homes yesterday to come meet him, and he's asking them to show the same resilience and the same fortitude, you know, on election day. It's not enough to come out for the campaigns. It's even more important that on election day. He said yesterday that your polling unit cannot be more than half a mile. At best, at the very worst, rather, 1 mile away from you. Take the pain to make that journey to secure your future. And when he becomes president, he said, like he made a solemn promise that no child, no Nigerian will be left behind in his government.
Yes, I was going to come to
no,
that.
You said, let me address the day that you said.
Yes.
It is still that same element that he has talked about, the fifth columnist, and the fact that there are people who are actively trying to undermine his campaign. Is it not somewhat worrisome that the APC had been in power for 7 years plus, and for a large percentage of that period where the APC has been in power, there's been no issue of oil scarcity. Months to the elections, and then these things are happening. It looks to me, from where I stand, like there is a design that within some elements within the party, in collaboration with the opposition, to try and make the APC unpopular leading to the elections. You know, Asiwaju is a very smart person. He chose specific places to talk about specific things. You know, the Emilokon thing was said in Abeokuta, and then he made the same call in Abeokuta again. There's a reason.
What is that reason?
You will have to ask him that. But there is a
no, you are a member of the PCC.
I don't have that. I can't. Yes, I am, but I can't speak to what is in the man's mind. But I'm sure that he's deliberate. That's what I can tell you.
You can say that there is a reason.
Yes, because
you can tell us
this is the man who I have studied. I met Asiwaju for the first time in 2011, so I can tell you for a fact that he doesn't do anything without there's a well thought out process. His venue, his choice of words, and you know the people that he's addressing. When he said Emilokon, he was talking to APC party faithfuls, not to the entirety of Nigerians. He was reminding party faithfuls of how he had come through for the party on several occasions and placing a demand on them. You know, not on the entirety of Nigerians. We need to be clear about that. And he chose Abeokuta for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but there's a reason. There's a reason why he also went to Abeokuta at the campaign and made that statement and said that there are people who are actively trying to undermine my ambition to become president. The same venue twice. It's not a fluke.
Okay, so one of the persons heavily involved in some of the issues raised by Asiwaju Tinubu is the president. The president has always given his backing to the Naira redesign, and some of the CBN's actions, in fact, the extension of the deadline was done after consultations with the president. Does that speak to, like I asked you before, does that speak to some, is Asiwaju aware that the president is involved in the Naira redesign?
Yes, Asiwaju has nothing against the Naira redesign. It's not the policy, it's the implementation of that policy. Now, this policy to redesign, this is not the first time Nigeria is redesigning the Naira. At the point, the 50 Naira, 20 Naira notes were in paper form until it became polymer. And that process was seamless. People didn't have to go and queue at the banks and, besiege the ATMs to get their monies out. We're trying to move Nigeria towards a cashless policy, which I think is a brilliant idea. But at the end of the day, implementation of that policy matters. You cannot make life unbearable for Nigerians to achieve a particular end. You cannot cripple the economy in a bid to drive the economy towards being cashless. It's not the way it's supposed to be. The deadline, the Naira redesign was put out, the policy was put out in October. The banks, we've kept giving Nigerians the old notes up until, I think, a week or 2 weeks ago. So it's that implementation. What should have happened is a seamless process where, as the old notes come to the banks hold on to the old notes, return it to the CBN reissues, issues them the new notes, and they reissue those new notes back into the society. It's a very seamless process. By now, the availability of the new note will have been everywhere. People will not have to literally gag each other, to get new notes. We're at a point in this country now where people are asking, how much is new note in your area? How much, the new notes are scarcer than the dollar. That's the legal tender in this country. It shouldn't be so. And that's the man's pain. That if people are discomforted, it's very natural for them to take out their frustration on the government of the day. So, and the implementers of this policy are not blind. They can see that something is wrong somewhere and there's a need to adjust and correct measures in the implementation. We're not asking for the policy to be scrapped. It's about the implementation. Make life easy for Nigerians. It is the responsibility of the government to do the best it can, for the most people it can, in the shortest possible time. So do that. That's what you've been instructed to do. Don't make life unbearable. How do people queue at the filling stations and then leave the filling stations and go and queue at the ATMs? 2 weeks or 3 weeks to election, they're going to take out their frustration on the government of the day. And that's this man's concern. It's not about the policy itself. It's the implementation.
But do you mind explaining why the APC and your presidential candidate seem to think that the presidential candidate of the PDP is directly benefiting from this Naira redesign policy, especially after he said that it was an act against him?
Well, I don't, it's not rocket science. There are, for the sake of respect, I would say there are 3 front runners in this election, but in honesty, there are 2 front runners, two major contenders for the office of the president. It's the APC and the PDP, So if anything works against the interest of the APC, it works in the favor. It's either this or that.
What about the other parties? Are they not also affected?
This is my opinion. This is my opinion. It doesn't have to be acceptable to all. Even in the most advanced democracies in the world, it's usually, elections are usually a 2-horse race. If you look at the UK, it's either the Conservatives or the Labour Party. If you look at America, it's either the Democrats.
But those are
there's a Tea Party in America.
That's what they operate.
America is not a 2-party system. There are other parties, but they never. I don't think it is fathomable that you pick up a platform and in 2, 3, 4 months decide to go for the highest office in the land, single-handedly, without any collaboration. If it was a merger of, pre-existing parties, people of collective interest coming together to form a stronger force, yes, maybe. But you must agree with me that the Labour Party, which is the new third force, is a breakaway of the PDP, and so is the NNPP. These 2 presidential candidates were in the PDP less than a year ago. The vice presidential candidates were also in the PDP. Their spokesperson, DG of their campaigns, were also members of the PDP until very recently. So it's a breakaway fraction of the PDP, and we must call it what it is. And so I mean no disrespect to anybody, and I think every Nigerian who is on the ballot is eminently qualified and has a right to run for the highest office in the land. But the facts on ground do not support the fact that they're going to win those elections. The fact says it's going to be a 2-horse race between the APC and the PDP. And this position was also backed up by, Governor Nasir El-Rufai yesterday. So I'm not saying anything that my party isn't already saying. So, and that's how we see it. Nigerians might choose to disagree with that. My listeners might choose to disagree, but that's how I see it as well. And I completely agree with that position that it's going to be a two-way. So whatever demarcates the APC automatically promotes the option of the PDP. And that's what Ashwaju was speaking to, that this current Naira redesign is frustrating Nigerians. It really is. In getting here today, I knew the stress that I had. I saw people on my way to this place at the ATM queues by 6 a.m. It wasn't the case a month ago. That was not the case. We're so close to elections now, and people are on the queues, and they are cutting out at the government of the day. This is the truth on ground. This is what is happening, and we need to be factual with ourselves. And this man can also say these things. It tells you the kind of president that he's going to be. He's not the kind of president who something is going to be happening, and he has no clue what is going on. He's not even president yet, and he's already feeling the pains of ordinary Nigerians. I don't think Ashwaju is as affected by the cash crunch as you and I, or as the ordinary Nigerian on the street. By he's standing in society, and there's so many people like that, across political parties. If we're going to be sincere with us, I don't think Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar will want to spend money, and they'll be have to go and queue at the ATM. But so these men are not affected really, but he knows that there are Nigerians, everyday people who are struggling to make a living, who are affected by these policies.
Yeah, but these same affected Nigerians will be voting each of the presidential.
Exactly the point. So now, if they feel that the government of the day is making their life difficult, they will vote against that party, and he's the flag bearer of that party, and that's why he's sounding it out to Nigerians that this is not the way it's supposed to be. There are elements within the party, within the presidency, who are actively working to demarcate the party. That backs up his point.
Well, before we talk about some of the other takeaways, I'd like to take your mind back to one of his campaigns a few days ago, where he spoke about the dollar exchange rate, saying that they met it at so and so, and they left it at this. Now, the bulk of the blame of all of these policies stops at the table of the commander-in-chief, and that's the president. Again, do you think that casting aspersions on, the policy direction of your own party's leader, the president, is a good way to go, considering the friction already existing within the party?
Let's be clear. There's no friction between Asiwaju and President Muhammadu Buhari. President Muhammadu Buhari has joined Asiwaju's campaign in a number of states. He's been heard and seen to be supporting Asiwaju's candidacy. What Asiwaju has a problem with, and he has said it even before the campaign started, that the parallel rates of the parallel exchange rate is one of the first things that these are low-hanging fruits that we can eliminate and make life easy for Nigerians. And he said that. So I don't think it's an attack on anybody. This is just this man saying, okay, we're going to do what we can to reverse the Naira against the dollar. The dollar is getting against the Naira every day. We know where it was in 1999. We know where it was in 91. We know where it is in 2023. So we're going to do everything we can to ensure that there is a upward rise in the value of the Naira against the dollar. And that's to the benefit of every Nigerian. I don't think he's casting aspersions on the person of the president. I think he's just telling Nigerians that, come on, if we get into office, and Buhari is not perfect.
Don't you think it is also demarcating the APC?
No. This is this man saying that the APC is not a guardian of angels. We're not perfect. We're not immutable. Of course, as a government, there will be policies that you made that you would make those plans in good faith and realize that, oh, these things are not working as you plan. And it's not, I think it's courageous for you to be able to own up to your own mistakes and say, okay, we are going to address certain areas of the government where we feel that government has misstepped or made wrong choices. It's not, I think it's something that Nigerians are unused to this kind of politics, where a man is as sincere as he can be. Oh, we've made mistakes, we're going to correct those mistakes. That's not casting aspersions on anybody, because nobody expected President Muhammadu Buhari to run this country for 8 years without making a few mistakes here and there. He's human. All right,
so we'd like to leave it there for now. When we come back from this break, we'll bring in our other guests to also speak to some of the issues that surrounding Asiwaju's campaign in Osun State and generally his campaigns ahead of the forthcoming elections. To stay with us. All right, thank you so much for joining us again on the show. We're still talking about the presidential candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and some of the statements he's been making in his campaigns, particularly that of Osun State. Before we take a snippet of that video, of that campaign, I'd like to introduce our second guest who's joined us live in the studios, the Special Assistant on Media to Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State, Akintide Bello Sheriff, joins us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, presenters. I'm glad to be here this morning. Good morning to our viewers at home.
All right, thank you. So let's take a look at that campaign yesterday and some of the things that were said by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You've heard some of the things said by the presidential candidate of the APC. Now let's come to you, APS. What do you make of yesterday's campaign? Some of the things that were said, particularly this one that just ended now.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. You see, if you go through the statement made by the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you will agree with me, and I am sure that sane populace out there will agree with me that this man only deserves to be resting at home. He has no business even contesting, because it is a stress on him, if we must be fair to him. The man, old age is a grace, but it has gotten to a level that the man is not mentally fit to lead any place, let alone a country as very sensitive and very, very comprehensive as Nigeria. You could see from the statement logically that it wasn't a clear statement. He was trying to say that students who could not afford admission, they are going to set up companies where they will work. I don't know how many of Asiwaju Tinubu's children who he has deployed into working without education. That is a contradiction. Because somebody who is not admitted and you want to engage him in a work or a trade, that means you are trying to reduce the fellow. You are not making him to grow to his maximum potential. So the first takeaway is that the APC under Tinubu, God forbid, is reducing the output and resourcefulness of our young people in Nigeria, such that they will not be useful really to themselves. Having addressed that, he went on to commit another gave by saying that students will now use 8 years under him. You see, there are no mistakes in that statement. The man is being, you know, God is very loving to us as Nigerians. He was trying to address us on their plans. Incessant strikes, people must look out that under him, God forbid, there will be incessant strike in Nigeria. Because what we know and understand is that as an undergraduate today in Nigeria, when you get admitted, under 4 years, you have programs that you can run and come out from the university. So if somebody is trying to program you on an 8-year journey, a journey that was supposed to take you for 4 years, God forbid, you must know that you must disembark from that kind of train. It's a train leading to nowhere. So the man is not wishing us prosperity, is not wishing us academic excellence or education prioritization. Instead, what they are interested in is taking us back to the dark ages. Now, if you look at the trajectory of our politics, somebody who is going to avail you a cloth, you must first of all understand and see about him what he is putting on. What did they do when they have the opportunity to govern? And let us come to the micro level, Osun State, before we even graduate to the complex state. What legacy, perhaps, can you deduce that the APC has put on us as a state that will make us trust them? Instead, they have made life more difficult for an average Nigerian, such that the people who hitherto are breadwinners are now unable to even own an akara. It's unfortunate.
Okay, so yesterday Asiwaju also described himself as the most competent, of all the presidential candidates. How do you respond to that?
Well, he was talking ironically. Competence in terms of what? In terms of hooliganism. When he was governor in Lagos State, hooliganism reigned supreme. It reigned supreme. This was a man during NSAS protest who was questioning the rationale of the lawful right of citizens of our country to protest. He was daringly asking us, where are the corpses? People must not forget where we are coming from. Competence in what? A man that cannot fairly communicate and express mentally well is competent. Competent about what? Don't forget, there is no state that the presidential candidate of the APC has visited to campaign that he has not, I'm sorry, I don't want to use harsh word like misbehavior, that he has not even, that he has not suggested to us that he's not mentally fit. Mental alertness is part of what you are going to call competence. This man went somewhere and said Atiku Abubakar, the next president by the grace of God, was a Senate president. In the first instance, Atiku was never a senator in history. He was only elected as a governor. I never took oath of office before he became vice president. And apart from being vice president, he has not been anything other than a presidential candidate who, by the grace of God, this time he will assume office. So Tinubu does not even know what goes around in. 4 years ago, he was in Osun State. He gleefully, gallivant, and boasted at the palace of the Kabiyesi. This is Yoruba land. And Yoruba, we are known for rich heritage, cultural heritage and respect. He disrespected the monarchy. He assaulted the Kabiyesi Atoja of Osogbo land by saying that he was richer than the entire Osun State. And his brother, the former governor Oyetola, was richer than the entire Osun State. Rich, what have they got to parade in terms of what they did that, accrued the money to them, other than the politics? They amass wealth from public resources and they are still flaunting it to us. Never again must the people of Osun State, especially, and Nigeria as a whole, trust this man. If it deserves anything at all, it is to go back home and be waiting unto God for his last breath.
Mr. Mustafa, is your candidate a boastful, gallivanting, and mentally unfit candidate?
Sometimes confidence is often mistaken for pride by those who don't have it. So I can excuse him if he thinks that Asiwaju is boastful. I'm an intelligent person, and I will say so. And for some people, that might be offensive. It's natural. I know lions will not eat grass. It's not pride. It's nature. If Asiwaju says he's the most competent, it's because he knows confidently that he's willing to say it. You spoke about Asiwaju questioning the lawful right of Nigerians to protest. He didn't do that. You people have a way of taking words are spoken in context. He said that he's going to go to the hospital and commensurate with those who have been injured, and he's going to ask the governor of Lagos State if he was the one who called in the military or not. You left out that part of your conversation. If they say people died, he wasn't at the scene, so he has a right to ask, if people have died, where are the corpses? That's not the wrong question to ask under the circumstances. But you are here looking to debase that man and supporting a man who deleted a tweet on the death of a girl who we cannot deny that her dead body was physically present. Atiku Abubakar, because of votes of offending the Northern enclave in the votes, deleted a tweet that he had commented with a girl who died, Deborah. There was no question about whether that girl had died or not. We all saw it. We saw it on video. So he's a boneless, spineless, weak man that you want to hoist over this country on the platform for the sake of politics. This is somebody who cannot defend his own words himself. You talk about ASU strike, and it's funny that you talk about ASU strike. When Atiku was vice president of this country, while ASU was on strike, he and his principal went and built private institutions for themselves. While ASU was on the longest strike in the history of the same country. And then you sit down here, this is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who said, I will pay WAEC fees for students in Lagos. And let's be clear, students in Lagos meant indigenous and non-indigenous. So long as you are resident in Lagos and you attended a public school in Lagos, your WAEC fees were going to be paid by the Lagos state government. And that promise was kept, and it's still being kept till today. And he was emphatically saying exactly the same thing, that we did it in Lagos and we'll do it again in Nigeria. He has spoken about this student loan thing, that this is what applies in sane societies, where students apply for student loans, and that guarantees that if you get out of school, you're going to get jobs. What that man said there, and I don't know how well grounded you are in Yoruba, and it's funny because you are supposed to be a Yoruba man, but maybe for political sake, you decide to misconstrue what he has said. He said you will go to school and you will get jobs. There are many Nigerian youths who are out of school now, who are jobless. He's addressing them. He said, and I'll say it again, it's as simple as that. And dare I say that you don't even have to possess a university degree to get a job. The world is moving far beyond your analog age, where you think everybody has to have a university degree to get a job. If you're a data analyst right now, all you can display is your skills, your soft skills, and you get employment. You don't necessarily have to go to the university to be a cloud computing expert. These are the things we're talking about. People are still dwelling in that 70s and 60s where everybody has to value a certificate. Young Americans and young British people are making millions on TikTok, and they don't even have degrees. What are you talking about? The world has moved past this kind of conversation. Before you go here, I was saying, let us stick to the issues. You spoke about mental alertness. Every presidential candidate has made gaffes, and it's not gaffes, it's gaffes. You know, every presidential candidate has made those gaffes, and it's normal for a human being. Like I said, oratory prowess is not the key indicator of leadership. It's not. I know people who can express themselves like I can do, or like you can do. That doesn't make us better than them in leadership. It doesn't. There are people who are introverts, who have led the biggest. Steve Jobs can barely speak 10 lines, but he built one of the biggest and largest companies in the world. Apple has a GDP that is bigger than the whole of Africa, and the man who owns it barely says anything.
Mr. Sharif, now we're talking about the APC, but I'd like to know from what he said, is your candidate boneless and spineless?
Well, that is very, very ridiculous to say. But before I go to that, I am utterly surprised that you know, he's my brother. We went to school together.
Oh, so you know I went to school. That's good. At least when I'm running for president, you can't say I didn't go to school.
Of course, we belong to that same generation. In the university, you know, we were going. He was coming by and so I respect him. I respect him. However,
it's mutual.
I respect him, but the truth is that you went to school, and this is a man who is crusading that people should drop out of school so that he can engage them. I wonder how you can promote such a man, because the video speaks for itself. We are not just trying to make speeches out of what we think that Tinubu wanted to say. We are analyzing what he said. He said people that cannot go to school, that cannot secure admission, it will, you know, set up industry to engage them. Let us not beat the matter. How can anybody say Atiku Abubakar, you know, how can anybody describe His Excellency Wasiu Adamawa in that light that he just did? This is the man who has done so much for himself. And let me just rightly point out one thing. He said when ASU was this, ASU was that, certain people went to establish certain things. It will interest you that APC has been in power for 8 years. Has anything changed about the ASU? Unlike what he's describing, the truth is that we have tested the APC, and APC has failed Nigerians. And you know, what we are used to before is that when you do not have money, there is no way, except you want to get indebted or go and seek financial assistance somewhere, there's no way you can spend. But today in Nigeria, everybody is poor because of the APC. Even if you have money, you don't have access to your money. And this is what the ruinous system that he wants us to continue to, you know, fight in office. No, it will not happen. Now, when there was ASUU strike under Obasanjo, like he said, was it as worse as what we witnessed under APC? Meanwhile, the same Balablu presidential candidate went to the same Obasanjo to seek endorsement and blessing. So what are we saying? That means these are people who are not known for any ideology except for the desperation, for the grabbing of power, for the sole reason of terrorizing and oppressing the citizenry.
ABS, I never cut you short. There's certain things you shouldn't say on live TV. Terrorizing people. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. As much as we want to debate, let's guard our statements.
I like to say that we ABS would need to keep our comments.
No, you need to guard your statements. You cannot say that somebody wants to grab power to terrorize Nigerians. I don't think that's fair.
To avoid, putting things in a bad light. So I like him to finish.
The point I am trying to make is that Atiku Abubakar is a detribalized Nigeria, and it stands for one Nigeria. And when you look at his campaign strategy and the ideology, it has been one consistent objective all through the years. Restructuring Nigeria, prosperity for all, security and welfare. That has been it. Does Tinubu even believe in the restructuring of Nigeria? No. The answer is no. Meanwhile, here is a presidential candidate whose wife came out to bemoan ethnic cohesion. She was, daringly assaulting the Igbo tribe that they have no place in Lagos, that they are strangers.
Who are you referring to?
Remi Tinubu, the supposed first lady. The wife to the wife to the APC presidential candidate was on live video. It is on the internet that the Igbo people should go back to the east. That they have no place in Lagos. The same position was maintained by the Oba of Lagos, and we all know that this is only coming from just one source. They are speaking for the man. So, Asiwaju Tinubu, except from the decoy arrangement of political correctness, has never been for one Nigeria. And some people will even question that is even for the Yoruba race. When Obasanjo was contesting, almost the entire Afenifere people, especially during the second coming of Obasanjo, agreed that they wanted the son of the soil. It was Tinubu that truncated that idea of a Yoruba man getting to the pinnacle of his success. The same thing applied to Mulika Atakande. When Mulika Atakande wanted to be Speaker of the House of Rep, it was this Tinubu that blocked the chances of the Yoruba people to assume rightful office. So the same Tinubu is now coming to say, Milukan. You see, democracy is not about inheritance. It is not a birthright. It is about selling your best agenda to the people, and the people having to shift, now deciding which is best for them. So the office is not yet his turn. What is his turn is to go back home and go and rest.
Can I speak to some of the issues that you raised?
Go ahead.
Okay, it's funny how you say Bola Tinubu is not a destabilized Nigerian, but he didn't support a Yoruba agenda to be president. He didn't support Mulika to be president. He supported a Tambua who is from the north, but he's not a destabilized Nigerian. But he wanted him to back Mulika simply because Mulika is a Yoruba woman. But you then said that he's not a destabilized Nigerian. This is somebody who appointed Ato Warren as commissioner for lands in Lagos, appointed Ben Akabweze as commissioner for budget and planning in Lagos in 1999, I dare say, when our democracy was at its most nascent state. It's funny how Lagos is the most open-handed state in this country, welcoming all as sundry, and Bola Tinubu has governed that Lagos and put. Like Mohammed is from Kwara State. He's not from Lagos, but he was commissioner in Lagos. When I was working with the ex-wife governor of Osun State, I was constantly reminded that I'm not from Osun State. Bola Tinubu did this in 1999 in Lagos, but you call him not detribalized. It's amazing to me how you will make a statement and then immediately contradict yourself. He's not for the Yoruba nation, but he's not a detribalized Nigerian. If there's anything you want to accuse Bola Tinubu of, being a tribal bigot cannot be one of that. It cannot even stick. I don't know how you want to mix it, but it cannot stick. This man has proven time and time and time again. Buhari was not going to be president without Bola Tinubu supporting him. But he's not a destabilizer. Is Buhari a Yoruba man? How is he not destabilized? He has built bridges across the divide. I was saying before you got here that 13 northern governors decided to back this one man. You are in a party where your party can't even put his house in order. You know, your party agreed that there was going to be power shift to the south, only to dance to the tune of one man who bullied everybody else, and that has created cracks within the party. You know, and it's evident. Bola Tinubu is getting support from the north, from the east, from the west, and from the south. Do you think that came by accident, or it's a mistake, or these people don't know what they are doing? It's because they can gainfully count just how much this man has built bridges over the years. Like I said, it doesn't just happen in 2 or 3 days. And I said it, and I'll say it again, that your presidential candidate is spineless, and you did not address that issue. You sidestepped it because I've given you evidences to prove that a Christian northern girl was killed, and your presidential candidate put out a tweet in commemoration with her of her death with her family, and the northern some block of northern fanatics rose up and began to campaign against his emergence as president, and he had that tweet deleted, and he never put it up again.
Did Bola Tinubu respond to that particular incident too?
I don't know, but actions that we can see are the ones that we can trace. You know, it is better to keep your mouth shut and not show yourself a fool than to speak and then confirm and remove all doubts. Your candidate spoke, and out of fear of being bullied by fast-fingered mobs. These are ordinary Nigerians. How am I supposed to believe that if something like that was to happen in the South, or somebody who close to me or even myself was mobbed, that an Atiku presidency would be able to defend me? He's not even president yet. You know, he could have even shifted the blame. It's easy to do the blame game now. He could have shifted the blame on the man who is president now. He didn't even have the balls to do that. Let's stick to the issues.
All right, ABS, one of the statements that came out of Asiwaju's campaign yesterday was wealth creation and restructuring the economy. He did make that comment yesterday, saying that he was going to do all within his power to ease the suffering of the common man. What do you make of that, considering that his party, the APC, is currently in government?
Thank you very much. You see, fundamentally, something is wrong with the APC presidential campaign. I don't want to say candidate, the campaign. And what is wrong is that they are trying to shy away from the very government that they put in place. Tinubu prominently featured amongst the people that installed Buhari as a president, and he was in agreement with virtually everything that administration was doing. He was frequently visiting the villa, pledging loyalty and support to the president, until a few days to election that he realizes that the APC has squandered the goodwill it has with Nigerians. And a presidential candidate for the first time is coming now to condemn the leader of his party and the sitting president of the very platform upon which he's seeking to get to office. That is that is a very clear sign for Nigerians to know that it is a journey to perdition. If a presidential candidate who is supposed to be campaigning on strength of continuity and promotion of the legacies of the outgoing government is the one now coming to attack, having endorsed every of the things that the same administration have done negatively to Nigerians, that means his intention must be questioned. He has an intention that is not truthful to the people he's seeking to lead, and the people must not trust him with power. Having said that, you see, what are we even talking about? Prominent figures in APC are coming to tell us, even apart from the presidential candidate, that the presidency in their party wants them to lose election. That means they do not trust in the ability of the man. Oshibajo was a presidential aspirant in APC. He contested with this man and is the sitting vice president. Very intelligent man. One of the best we have so far. You understand? At that presidential primaries, he came out to tell Nigerians that if they mean well for this country, they must not cast their vote for a man they don't believe in, that can change anything. Apparently referring to Tinubu.
Are you sure that he was referring to Tinubu?
Apparently,
you're making assumptions.
He and Tinubu.
You're making assumptions.
Listen. He and Tinubu were the most prominent in that race.
He came a distant third. He wasn't the most prominent.
You understand? So he was telling us that Tinubu does not mean well, and people.
No, I'm trying to get it straight. Are you in possession of any document or any conversation that would make you have that informed position that he was referring to Tinubu? Amechi was also on the ballot then. It was on the paper. Ahmed Lawan was also there.
Okay. Let me now point this out to you. Since the campaign has started now, to support my claim, where have you seen Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in that campaign?
Well, the presidency did give an explanation for that. The president said he wanted the vice president to focus on governance,
even when
seeing as the president is the chair of the campaign. So what do you make of that?
Even when Bola Tinubu visited Ogun State, where the vice president comes from, the vice president was not there. So that tells you that the man is a godly man. He knows that the candidature of Tinubu is not a candidature for the goodness of this country.
Would you say the same about Rotimi Amechi's absence too?
Well, it speaks to the problem in that party. The party is a party waiting for an implosion.
All right, gentlemen.
Because just before we go, just before we go, come to Osun State. Have you served under Rauf Aregbesola as governor? You understand? Just in Osun State, I do not see anybody, just anyone in Osun State APC leadership that can come out and tell the people and campaign to the people, and the people will be ready to listen to them. Other than Rauf Aregbesola, Rauf has not featured 1 second in the presidential campaign of Bola Tinubu, and somebody is guessing, is falsely guessing that Tinubu is going somewhere.
Okay, so gentlemen, we'd like to leave it at that, but then let's come to Mr. Mustafa for your own.
Conjectures are very easy to make. You know, you said that the APC is a party waiting for implosion. There are 5 governors in your party who don't support your presidential candidate. What do I make of that? Does that mean that they don't believe in the viability of an Atiku presidency? You know, you go home and think about that. You spoke about restructuring. There is no governor that has challenged federal might like Bola Tinubu. If nothing speaks to restructuring more than that. 17 times Bola Tinubu went to court against the federal government as governor to try and get special consideration for states. The fact that we have states, internal general revenue agencies at state levels is the brainchild of Bola Tinubu. The fact that there are 52 local governments in Lagos State right now, if that does not speak to restructuring or devolution of power, then I don't know what else speaks. You said that nobody can command and speak to Osun voters and they will listen. Yesterday's crowd must be sending shivers down your spine there.
All right, so we'd like to leave it at that. Shivers down the spine of these 2 young men, these 2 gentlemen. We've been speaking with Mr. Ahmed Mustafa, who is a member of the APC's Presidential Campaign Council, and of course, Mr. Akintunde Sheriff, Bello Sheriff, who is the Special Assistant on Media to current Governor of Osun State, Ademola Adeleke. These 2 men have tried to sell their candidate and, of course, tried to make sense of some of the things that happened yesterday at the presidential campaign of the APC. That's where we'll leave the show this morning. I'll be coming back to bring you who and what is trending.
You have a nice day. I'm Temi Dokwe Ajala Oluola.